Okay, let's dive right into this. For decades, the Winchester Mystery House has really stood as this iconic monument to the macabre. I'm sure you've probably heard the spooky myth, right? This eccentric, grieving widow, absolutely tortured by spirits, building an endless, crazy maze of a mansion just to keep the ghosts at bay. It's a chilling story. It's captivated imaginations around the world for sure. But today, in this explainer, we're going to look past the shadows and the folklore to uncover the actual, much more fascinating history.
It's the big question that draws millions of visitors to San Jose, California every single year. Are the ghostly stories of the Winchester Mystery House actually true? I really want you to consider for a moment if this famous monument to madness is actually what it seems, or if there's a hidden historical truth just kind of buried beneath the floorboards. To understand exactly why the myth took such a strong hold, we just have to look at the bizarre, labyrinthine scale of the house. I mean, the statistics are literally staggering. What started out as just an 8-room farmhouse was transformed into a massive 24,000 square foot estate. We're talking 160 rooms, 10,000 windows, 2,000 doors, 47 stairways, and 13 bathrooms. Because hey, even ghosts need a place to freshen up, right? But seriously, it is a sheer architectural anomaly. And this sensationalism is brilliantly illustrated by how the media has historically portrayed it. Just take a look at this quote from the 2018 Hollywood movie claiming the house is a prison and asylum for hundreds of vengeful ghosts. The popular myth absolutely insists that Sarah Winchester was this guilt-ridden widow frantically hiding from the spirits of those killed by the Winchester rifle. And sure, it makes for a fantastic horror movie plot. Absolutely. But it completely 100% erases the reality of the brilliant woman who actually built it. So, let's move into part 1, the real Sarah Winchester, architect, heiress, and philanthropist. Let's sweep away those cobwebs and look at her real motivations, which tragically start with profound grief. In an incredibly rapid succession of tragedies, Sarah lost her infant daughter Annie in 1866, her father in 1869, followed by both her mother and father-in-law in 1880, and then her husband William to tuberculosis in 1881. This was just an unbelievable string of losses, so prompted by her physician to get a change of scenery, she moved to the warm climate of California, really just seeking a fresh start and a massive, all-consuming project to keep her brilliant mind busy. But when she arrived in California, she wasn't just seeking refuge. She arrived with staggering wealth. Thanks to her 50% share in the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, Sarah literally had an income of $1,000 a day. To put that into perspective for a second, that is the equivalent of over $25,000 every single day in today's money. This immense, totally disposable fortune is exactly what allowed her to fund her ambitious architectural hobby without ever needing to consult a single outside investor. Which brings us to part 2, earthquake damage, not evil spirits, the architectural oddities explained. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is, there is a completely logical, historical explanation for the home's bizarre layout when it comes to all those doors opening to nowhere. Let's look at the ghost myth directly compared to historical fact here. The legend says these oddities were spiritual traps, but the reality? The devastating 1906 San Francisco earthquake. The quake hit the house incredibly hard. It literally collapsed the top 3 stories of a 7-story tower and destroyed entire wings of the house. Sarah, who was actually trapped in her bedroom during the quake, simply had the damaged rooms boarded up and abandoned. So, those stairs to nowhere, they used to lead to a floor that was completely destroyed. The doors that drop off into thin air, they used to open onto balconies that collapsed. It's literally an earthquake scar, not some supernatural architecture. And what about that famous legend that the hammers never stopped ringing 24 hours a day because she believed she'd literally die if construction ceased? Well, we have her very own letters to prove that's just false. In 1898, she wrote to her sister-in-law, "I became rather worn and tired out and dismissed all the workmen to take such rest as I might through the winter." You see, the hammers stopped frequently for extreme heat, for lack of materials, and simply because Sarah just wanted a break. The whole myth of the non-stop building is completely debunked by her own pen. Moving on to part 3, a Gilded Age philanthropist, using wealth to build a community. Far from being some crazy recluse, Sarah actually used her wealth out of a really deep social conscience. Take a look at just a few of her massive, often completely anonymous contributions. She donated over $1 million to the New Haven Hospital for a tuberculosis ward, which, remember, is the very disease that took her husband. She purchased homes and fully supported her extended family. And crucially, during the severe economic depression of 1893, when unemployment skyrocketed, Sarah's constant construction project provided steady, reliable jobs and housing for the local working class. Her endless building wasn't madness at all. Honestly, imagine it as her own one-woman economic stimulus package.
Now for part 4, Birth of a Ghost Story, the commodified legacy of a grieving widow. So, how exactly did this generous, brilliant woman become known as a crazy ghost hunter? Well, it happened almost immediately after her death in 1922, when the property became what scholars actually call haunted real estate. This is property deemed terrifying for psychological reasons, which is then cleverly leveraged into a spectacular roadside attraction. When the property was leased and eventually purchased by an amusement park operator named John H. Brown, he and his wife knew full well that a quirky heiress wasn't going to sell tickets. But a haunted, stigmatized property, that definitely would. And just like that, the Haunted House Industrial Entertainment Complex was born. It's wild to look at how quickly the media narrative shifted. By 1924, mere months after the house opened to the public, newspapers like the Halsburg Tribune were printing these highly sensational claims about a seance room dedicated to the spirit world. But the reality? Historians note that there are 0 contemporary accounts of Sarah ever holding seances. And this supposed seance room? Yeah, it was actually just the private quarters for her gardener. I guess even a ghost needs someone to prune the hedges, right? The haunting was entirely manufactured for profit. So the crucial point here is how the people who actually knew her reacted to all these stories. Her friends, her staff, her legal team, they were all absolutely appalled by the rumors. Roy Leib, the son of her longtime lawyer, stated very plainly in 1925, "Mrs. Winchester was as sane and clear-headed a woman as I have ever known. The commonly believed supposition that she had hallucinations is all bunk." She was highly renowned by her inner circle for her sharp, incredible grasp of business and financial affairs. Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, Reclaiming the True Legacy, Beyond the Monument to Madness. It's really time we dismantle the sexist myths that reduced a fierce, independent businesswoman down to just a weeping, terrified widow. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought. Why is it so much easier for society to label a powerful woman living alone as crazy rather than simply acknowledging her genius, her autonomy, and her grief? We've happily preferred the ghost story for 100 years because, let's face it, it's thrilling entertainment. But the real Sarah Winchester, an architect who built a sanctuary entirely on her own terms, is infinitely more fascinating. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep questioning the legends you think you know.